Well, welcome back. It's episode 6 again. I don't really have an intro for this. Actually, that's a lie. I do have an intro for this. Welcome to the Paws on Pill podcast, where I finally decided to write out an intro that I'm reading now that you're hearing now. Wow, great production quality. If you want to find the topics you might be interested in, there are chapters down below on the time bar thing that you can skip to. Yeah, if you're new here, hello, I'm Shadow. That's it. If you're not new here, welcome back. It's a microphone bump. Every single time I somehow manage to bump my microphone when I think I have the space not to do that. Sticking with that anyway. If you're new here, I also do gaming stuff eventually, sometimes, partially. Not eventually. Definitely sometimes. It has been a day, and if you can't tell, I am so tired. I'm so tired. But, otherwise, if you have any comments or questions about whatever I talk about on here, that you can throw in for an interaction segment, even though it would be delayed by, at this point, about a week, you can go ahead and leave a comment below, and then I can respond to that in the next episode. While you're down there, you can subscribe or like the video if you want, but I genuinely don't care. The algorithm is well out of my favor, and I just don't care, so do whatever. Don't like it, don't subscribe, whatever. This is a podcast where I ramble about motorsports, mostly Formula 1, 2, 3, F1 Academy, Formula E. Do you see a pattern yet? I do talk about other stuff, though. Don't worry, it's okay. What the other stuff is, I actually don't know, but maybe some sim racing stuff eventually. Maybe. Probably, which is a great segue into my first topic, which I did not really have, but I kind of did have ready. There we go. Forgot about that. Oops. Finally, Kunos have mentioned that Assetto Corsa Evo is not always online. It only took them... What do you mean it took 84 days? Okay, well, better late than never, I guess. In the meantime, I'll touch more on sim racing stuff around the end of the episode. But as for general news stuff, I will get to that. Let me double check my timings here, my plans. So I'll get to that here, and not even the end of the episode, actually. I'll get to that in a moment, because we unfortunately have to talk about Formula 1 in Japan. There's literally nothing to fucking talk about for Formula 1 in Japan. I mean, there were special liveries that Haas and Red Bull had, but otherwise, that's kind of it. There were quite a few times where I confused the Red Bull for the V-Carb, and V-Carb did not do a special livery, which was confusing. The only thing that really happened that was notable is that Doohan in Free Practice 2 had a hard crash into Turn 1 because he left the DRS open on turn-in. Apparently... as I die on air. Apparently what happened is that, like, in the simulator, he had, I think, like, let off enough that the DRS closed automatically, but he didn't do that in real life. So there was something that happened in the simulator that did not obviously happen in real life. In my personal opinion, Alpine is not getting, is not necessarily beating the "we're getting rid of Doohan" rumors. Because they are not exactly giving him a chance, and half joking, it feels like it's self-sabotage for Alpine for Doohan. Alpine in general are just not good organizationally. Like, they don't have anything organized. I think that's about it, actually. I would read through qualifying, but actually, no, I will read through qualifying. Correction, I'll read through the finishing results for Japan, because nothing happened. And here's why. I'll read the finishing results here. The finishing results for Japan are from 1st to 20th. We have Verstappen finishing 1st, Norris 2nd, 3rd Piastri, 4th Leclerc, 5th Russell, 6th Antonelli, 7th Hamilton, who was up 1 position from where he started. Hadjar finishing 8th, who finished below 1 position where he started. Albon and Behrman 9th and 10th. Alonso finished 11 plus 2 spots. Tsunoda finished 12th plus 3. Gasly finished 13th minus 2. Sainz finished 14th minus 2 spots. Doohan finished 15th plus 4 spots. Hulkenberg finished P16. Lawson finished 17th minus 3 spots. Ocon finished 18th, Bortoleto finished 19th, -2 spots, and Stroll finished in 20th. So all those like pluses, minuses from where they started are from where they started. So quite literally the top six, 9th, 10th, and 16th, and 18th, and 20th did not change position. At least like from P11 to P15, they did have a decent amount of shuffling, but like the entire top 10, in the entirety of the top 10, it's only one position swap, and it's between Hamilton and Hadjar, and that's it. Yikes. Another thing to note is McLaren's fumble, I would argue, of their pit strategy. Why did they pit at the exact same time as Verstappen? I forget the exact order because I didn't even bother to write any notes for Japan. But if I remember correctly, they pit Piastri first, and then they bluffed a pit stop call for Norris, which was, I think, a lap after, and then a lap after Piastri pit. So both Verstappen and Norris stayed out. And then the next lap is when Verstappen and Norris pit at the exact same lap. And the only amount of action that we got throughout the race, for the lead specifically, where Kimi did lead a few laps, which was very cool. What was I saying? Right, pit exit. Verstappen and Norris didn't collide on pit exit, but it was kind of arguing for space. And Norris kind of thought, I think, from my opinion, I think from what he said too, I could be wrong, but Norris thought that Max was going to move over to left-hand side on pit exit to give him that space. Max did not move at all. The only movement he had was a twitch of the rears, since Max was trying to get onto the gas. But yeah, Norris had went into the grass a little bit, and any chance of battling for the win was lost pretty much right there. But then it continues actually, because later in the latter stages of the race, I think the last 15 to last 10 laps, Norris was kind of stagnant. He's like averaging like a 1.2 second gap between himself and Verstappen. And then Piastri says, you know what, give me a go. I'm pretty sure I'm faster. And McLaren did nothing. Like the least they could have done is let Piastri by, and if Piastri couldn't catch up, swap him back, or just swap him back later. But like, after all of this, like I just think back to the whole thing with Hungary where McLaren had undercut themselves basically, and they had undercut Norris with Piastri, because they pit Piastri first and they pit Norris, and Norris came out ahead. And of course, the whole thing with the radio call just, oh, you're going to need Oscar, you're going to need the team, trying to gaslight Norris basically into letting Piastri by for I would say, deserved win had McLaren not fucked up their strategy in Hungary. And after all of that, like, and even then between Hungary and I think it was Monza last season, where they're like, oh, we don't have number one driver, number two driver, we have equal drivers. And this race shows that that mentality has not changed for McLaren, which is very annoying, because they need to have I'm fine with them prioritizing whoever's leading in the championship, but this was not the way to do it. Like, we're at the point of Japan, we're 3 races in. Right now, this time of recording, we're 4 races in, but I'll get to that. But at the time of Japan, we're 3 races in. Lando doesn't need to finish ahead of Piastri all the time. He doesn't need to. He was already leading the championship, I think. So, like, he's fine. But it is very questionable of what McLaren are doing in terms of strategy. Pit strategy as well. Like, I don't know why they didn't say opposite box Verstappen in the first place. But that's beside the point. I'm more annoyed that they don't know how to manage their own team. But then again, there's also Alpine that really don't know how to manage their own team. So that's my little rant about that. Hopefully they get better this season, but so far this is the way they're kicking off the season. I have very low hopes. On to general racing news in the land of motorsports, both real and, I guess, tangentially sim racing, as I mentioned. Assetto Corsa Evo has confirmed, Kunos has confirmed Assetto Corsa Evo is not fully online, which, thank goodness. I had wished that they responded to that a lot sooner, you know, when people were raising the concerns, not, as far as I can tell, staying quiet until they made that announcement on YouTube of like just a whole catch up. They did admit, at least I can commend them for this, is that they did admit that there were a couple things that they got wrong, which I do appreciate that they are honest about that. That's good, great, awesome. They are doing mod tools, I think, in early access as well. So that basically, this is a whole roundabout way of me saying, I initially did a video on the Assetto Corsa Evo, but the whole like potential of always online kind of put me off. So it's like I scrapped that video. I don't even know if I have it. I think I saw the thumbnail, but I do not have the. I don't think I have the video, unless I have that saved somewhere. I do not know. So I don't have that video at all. I don't have that original video. I just scrapped that, but I kept the thumbnail. But yeah, roundabout way saying I'm gonna play Assetto Corsa Evo at some point, and you'll see a video on that on the channel. Same goes for Le Mans Ultimate. I am leaning towards buying that now. Because I am curious how the handling for that stacks up against iRacing, where I've been an iRacing member for, I think this year would be like 12 years or something, 13 years maybe. I don't know, long time. But I've been branching out into different sim racing stuff, and I think Le Mans Ultimate has some sort of update coming out in May. So be on the lookout for that in May, question mark? Maybe, probably, I don't know. As for actual real-life racing news, a whole host of stuff. Ryo Hirakawa is signed officially as the Haas reserve driver, and he participated in Bahrain FP1 free practice. I don't know where he finished, because I didn't watch practice. That's a lie. I didn't watch FP1. I think I did watch FP2. I think I watched FP2 for Bahrain, but I don't remember. Carlos Sainz is fined 10,000 euros, and then another, 20,000 euros in total, 10,000 suspended for being late to the national anthem for apparently what Carlos Sainz had guessed is, checks notes, 5 seconds. Now, this has been said by someone like Aiden Millward. For some reason I dropped the R from his name whenever I think about his name, but Aiden Millward did a piece on this as well. He kind of touched on this topic, where I think we all have a general understanding. I think everyone has a general understanding of, yeah, let's respect the country's anthem for sporting events. That's just a general agreement. Fair enough. Makes sense. But you can't make an exception for 5 seconds worth when Sainz has officially gone to a doctor, and I think he like got a doctor's note or something, like he confirmed to the FIA like with that doctor, or the doctor and the FIA talked or whatever, just like, no, this, like, Sainz had some sort of stomach issues, and that's why Sainz was late. But no, he was late. We don't care about the reason why he was late. Fine him 10,000 euros for being late by allegedly 5 seconds. Come the fuck on, really. On a related note of the FIA being stupid as hell, Robert Reed has stepped down as the FIA deputy president. He had said, quote, I took on this role to help deliver greater transparency, stronger governance, and more collaborative leadership. Over time, those principles have been increasingly set aside, and I can no longer, in good faith, remain part of a system that no longer reflects them. Stepping away was not easy. However, staying with it meant compromising what I believe in. This is about principles, not politics. Motorsport deserves leadership rooted in integrity, accountability, and respect for process. That's the minimum standard we should all expect and demand, end quote. Basically, this is this says something when a bunch of senior staff are leaving and or being fired, with Mohammed Ben Sulayem recently with the main FIA president. Even more interesting is that he's trying to distract everybody by saying, "Oh, guys, I actually want the V10s to come back. Let's do that. Yeah, rah rah." It's like, no. Don't. It's like, unfortunately, it's like actual politics, where there's a bunch of things that, like, a lot of people don't like. Let's be honest. I'm pretty sure he knows a lot of people don't like him by this point, or he's just ignorant to that fact. But it's a whole, like, it's just general politics. Not even like country politics, but like politics of like trying to distract people. So it's like, oh, like a lot of people just like this thing. Well, let's say one thing that people have been saying for years and years and years now, like of what we want, what everyone collectively agrees with, which V10. I would like V10s to come back. However, no, not under like that. No, not now. That's the least of our problems right now. The main problem is the FIA deputy or FIA lead president, which is Mohammed Ben Sulayem, who famously crashed a car on the straightaway, crashed a Formula One car on the straightaway, win record time. But yeah, I don't know. The fact that again more FIA staff members are leaving and or resigning and or being fired, I would be a bit concerned. I don't believe there's anyone that is currently running for election for FIA president against Mohammed bin Sulayem, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully somebody will. I would take generally anybody instead of him at this point. Touching back on Aiden Millward as well, I think there's still a lawsuit between Susie Wolf and the FIA with the whole conflict of interest thing that happened with Susie Wolf, I think, running Formula One Academy. I forget the actual reason, but it's like there's a conflict of interest. No. I remember. I forgot what the exact reason was, but I do remember there was I think it was just for her running F1 Academy. Because Susie Wolf is, I think, the CEO of F1 Academy. I think. I know she's in a very, very high up position. I know that much. And I remember all the team reactions of every single F1 team, I think, were saying, no, we do not believe there is a conflict of interest with Susie Wolf running this series, F1 Academy specifically. And we stand firm that we believe she is fit to lead, or something, some sort of general encompassing statement like, no, there's no conflict of interest. What the FIA says is incorrect. So there's been a lawsuit, I think, since then. I think it's still ongoing, but I genuinely have no idea. It might be a private thing. So that's the whole FIA stuff out aside. On the news of positive stuff, and this is why I touched on Le Mans Ultimate a little bit, McLaren have announced a hypercar bid for 2027 for the 24-hour of Le Mans. I think WEC in general, I couldn't really tell. I think it's debuting in 24-hour Le Mans. However, my hope is that Le Mans Ultimate lasts long enough. Please last long enough. That McLaren hypercar ends up in Le Mans Ultimate, which would be fantastic. If there are yearly season passes for Le Mans Ultimate, that would be cool. I would actually love to have that. Because it's run by Motorsport Games, I'm hesitant. And I have been hesitant because it's run by Motorsport Games. And it's the same company that tried to buy up like 5 licenses, I think. I remember it's NASCAR, IndyCar, British Touring Car, WEC, and I think a 5th one that I always keep forgetting. But, we all know how that went. They lost the IndyCar license because they kept delaying the game around the same time that the NASCAR game released, which I did play for a short while, a year after it released, which I do have a video on that somewhere on this channel. And it was still bad a year later. The AI was still broken a year after release. Like, there's some day one things that I caught where it's like, when I first saw the game release. So hopefully Le Mans Ultimate is good. I haven't seen anything like stupidly negative about it. So fingers crossed. And finally, a very fun thing too is that apparently Cape Town has an actual proposal for an F1 track, as in like what it looks like. There it is. Honestly, I am intrigued. Since it's around like a flat area, it's going to be not many elevation changes. Allegedly, it's 25 corners, but there are some corners that should not be labeled as 25 corners. I think Mr. V had labeled them as, I think it's truly 19 corners of what it should be. So I do like the layout, though. I'm very intrigued as to what they have in store for the proposal. So hopefully this track becomes an actual thing, because I am intrigued. And it would be great to further bolster the World Championship of F1 for just a South African Grand Prix. In the meantime, we move on to the thing that I haven't changed yet because, oops. I'm actually going to skip this one because I have it out of order in my notes. We are moving on first to Formula E in Miami. They went to Homestead-Miami this year. First time they gone to Miami in general since 2015, I think. 2017? 2016. one of those 3 years. I think it was since 2015. So, um, honestly, the first half of the race, not the best. Commentary is doing a fantastic job, though, explaining how the energy efficiency was like very, very paramount. So drivers, they even said, yeah, drivers are running 10 seconds slower than the qualifying times because obviously nobody wants to push because they want to save the battery to the end. We'll kind of get to that. Um, it kind of says something though because the TV direction, instead of like cutting to what I prefer would be more onboards, they instead cut to more personnel like team member shots within like 5 or 6 or 7 laps, which if you start having to cut to team shots within the first 7 laps of a race, something drastically needs to change. I think the track layout, fantastic, it's fine. I think it's just a matter of how Formula E is in general, where I think the term is like a peloton race, where you don't want to be the one that's leading because you're using more energy, and it's going to be like you're going to have people like swapping back and forth for first and second, like kind of cycling through. So could have been better in that sense. I think that's just a general Formula E issue. I don't know if like shorter laps, like a shorter lap count, could have solved that, or maybe like mandatory attack charge, so people would have to be pushing all the time. There's probably some way to stop them from doing that I don't have the full answer to. Obviously, it is a crutch of Formula E, unfortunately. Not the one that they rely on, I should say. It's more of hampering by them. But the second half of the race was still pretty good. At some point, Jean-Eric Vergne did miss turn 13, I think. It goes from the back. If you know Homestead-Miami, it's just a giant oval, obviously. But it's the road course corner in the infield of turn 3 that Jean-Eric Vergne, I think, had just cut through over the curb and just went through the grass and just kind of straight lined it to recover through the grass. So it was very interesting. Lap 21 of 26 says a lot. I don't have lap counts throughout the entire race because position swaps at this point, it is a little bit of a format I'm changing as well, where I'm not going to go over every single like lap where I think something's important, like, ooh, somebody passed somebody here. No, I'm just going to do a more general reaction recap at this point because, But lap 27, we have Jake Hughes, Max Gunther, and Mitch Evans all colliding in the chicane and blocking the one and only line in the chicane, thus leading to a red flag. I think it was for like 13th or so. I don't have these things off the top of my head. I wish I did. I know it wasn't for the lead, or else I would have written that down. But it was 3 wide into the chicane, so from left to right, going into the chicane, it was Buemi, Gunther, and Hughes. And then Buemi was able to go through, but Gunther in the middle kind of runs into Hughes. And then Hughes runs into the wall, in the little temporary wall of the chicane they had. So kind of hits the wall with his right front, bounces. It doesn't bounce, but he kind of like happens to skid in front of the racing line where Evans and was not able to avoid. Where Gunther was not able to avoid, who ends up kind of on the left rear of Hughes' car. And then Evans kind of just bonks into the back of both of them. And then when dislodging, this is kind of embarrassing, but I figure it was also kind of funny, where when reversing, Evans backs up, and then Gunther backs up. He gets his car off of Gunther gets his car off of Jake Hughes' car, which is completely destroyed. He's not able to drive back. And then Gunther backs up even more, coincidentally, directly into the front wing of Evans, which yikes. It did remind me of one of those like basic, quote unquote basic crashes where it's like someone isn't fully paying attention to where their foot is on which pedal. So instead of hitting the brake, they hit the gas. And that's what that reminded me about. But after all that, Gunther and Evans had gone to pit road pretty much immediately. And then the field had to go with the safety car around for one extra lap. So Gunther and Evans are let are waved by for 1 lap on the racetrack. So basically from pit lane, leaving pit lane, go around the track, back into pit lane, so they can be on the same amount of energy as the rest of the field, which is very nice, very sporting. And then by this point, most of the field has not used attack mode, so we are having a standing restart on lap with like 4 laps to go at the line. And everyone has to use attack mode. There are some people that used it, and there are 5 people that did not do it in time. And I'm going to read through what the finishing order is with penalties, and I'll read out the penalties as well for who finished where. You'll probably see why here in a second. So after all the penalties, the finishing order is Verline, DeGrassi, DeCosta, Nico Mueller, Edo Mortara, Norman Nato with a 10-second time penalty for not utilizing all of his attack mode, Dan Ticktum, Robin Friends, plus 10-second penalty, Dennis, Oliver Rowland, plus 10-second penalty, De Vries, Jean-Eric Verne, Buemi, Van Dorn, Cassidy, plus 5-second for track limits, Evans, Gunther, Bird, plus 10 seconds for attack mode usage, Maloney, plus 5 seconds for not fully stopping after cutting the chicane, and Barnard, plus 10 seconds for attack mode. Yikes. Nato won on track. However, oh, that was embarrassing. They kind of broke the timing tower throughout the race as well. I don't know what happened, but the timing tower was very, very, very late, like upwards of like 30 seconds late of showing like the actual trigger of attack mode. So instead of having 3 minutes left, they maybe already had like 2.5 minutes left. It was kind of fine, and then they kind of broke it in the latter half. So I don't know what happened there with the scoring system, but I forget who it was on commentary. But somebody on commentary after the race had said that they had all this time to use some of these teams like had all this time to use the attack mode, and they chose not to. And I believe that is a fair assessment of everything. After this, luckily it's only like 5 people that got a 10-second time penalty. However, I think it should be a harsher penalty because the commentary had said like some drivers had finished with upwards of, at least some drivers I think like in the top 5. So like Nato, Franz, and Roland had finished with I think 20 or 30 seconds remaining of attack mode. I think instead of being a plus 10-second general sporting penalty, while it's harsh, I think the time penalty should be the amount of time that was left on the clock for attack mode. However, that does go into an issue of, well, how do you penalize someone who's like 1 second, has 1 second left of attack mode and they cross the line? Like, it gets kind of a bit weird there. I think it should be a harsher penalty than 10 seconds. It shouldn't be a disqualification, but I think it should be a harsher penalty because, again, those 5 teams, Nato, Friends, Roland, and McLaren, those 5 teams, as I name, 3 drivers and then 1 team, 5 drivers total. I think the teams definitely should have, used attack mode sooner. That's fully on them. But I guess plus 10 seconds is okay. I think it should be plus 15, maybe, just to be a bit harsher, because you can't not know by the time the race happens of like when you're using attack mode, like what strategy you're choosing, how many laps you're going to be using, or how many minutes per lap basically is like would the attack mode help. That's a sentence. How many, like, if someone, let's go with this. If I'm like a team manager for, let's say, McLaren, appropriately enough, I know that I'm pulling numbers just randomly here, so don't take this as fact, but let's say it's like 2 minutes of attack mode is 1.5 laps. So I know I have 1.5 laps for 2 minutes. And then I can't do math off the top of my head right now, but like, 2, 4, 6, so that's 1 point, so that's 50, 4.5 minutes, 4.5 laps for 6 minutes. So it's like, you would know that before you even tell them what strategy they're doing at first. And I think most teams went 2 and 6, 2 minutes for the first attack mode, and then 6 for the last. That is just on them at that point. Should have gone 4 and 4, basically. But otherwise, not a bad race for Formula E, but not the best race either. Solely because of how the whole peloton thing was. But it wasn't an awful race. It wasn't entirely boring, in my opinion. Speaking of not entirely boring, shockingly, Formula One this week. Whoa! For this is why I shoved Japan into here and didn't do an individual episode on it, because nothing happened. So we have Bahrain. Yay! We have immediately started with Norris rolling forward in his grid box with his front tires over the line, and he gets a 5-second time penalty because, oh boy, somehow he forgot to hold the brakes. That's just a rookie mistake. I have no words. Throughout the first few laps, there were occasional lockups from a few drivers, but overall it was pretty good. It was pretty clean. No like major flat spots. The driving that Kimi Antonelli has done this season, so far has been very, very good. And ever since the initial announcement of Kimi Antonelli being a part of Mercedes, I have always been skeptical. And it's not to say he doesn't have talent. It's just I have just been skeptical because it's like you're throwing in a young guy into a Mercedes. It's like, for me, I thought I would have thought that Williams would have been a better choice. But considering how well he's been doing so far, he has very wonderfully proved me wrong. The strategy, however, not the best, but we'll get to that. Meanwhile, there's a bit of battle early on in the race. I didn't put light lap counts for some of these. I just put bullet points because the lap count doesn't really matter at this point. Words, yes. At the early point of the race, seeing Sainz in the Williams, Hamilton in the Ferrari, and Tsunoda in the Red Bull battling all together on track was very weird. And as a friend of mine had said, if you told me last year that we'd be seeing something like that, I would not have believed you. And yet here we are. It is insane, and I love it. It's like some F1 manager shit where that's the only thing you would see that, but this is real life, and I love it. Red Bull had a couple pit light issues, literally a couple pit light issues, once for Verstappen, once for Tsunoda. We'll get back to Red Bull's pit issues. It doesn't end here. The broadcast direction was a little bit weird because when Antonelli was chasing down Verstappen, I think they went to Kimi's onboard about turn 6. I'm trying to think of the Bahrain lane again. That was kind of around the end of the S's. I think it was at the start of the S's, so it might have been turn 4. The right-hander after the DRS zone. I guess it's turn 3. That turn, basically. But they held from that onboard up until turn 11 after the second DRS zone, and they cut to a wide shot for some reason. I don't know why. It was a very random decision, and I couldn't see shit. Because, I mean, I could see the cars, obviously, but that wasn't the time for a scenic shot, basically. Forget the scenic shots. You're focused on the action. Onboards are your best friend. But regardless, the Antonelli and Verstappen battle was a lot of fun. It was Antonelli on... I forget if it was Antonelli on softs for this first one. I think it was Antonelli on softs and then Verstappen on hards. No, it was Antonelli on mediums, Verstappen on hards. And that was a very fun battle. Never would have thought that I'd be seeing that. Kind of around this point, I started putting laps in for the most part. Leclerc is told to, quote, box this lap for mediums. Leclerc replies, ugh, Delta, please consider it. They did not consider it. They stuck with the strategy. Considering how everything played out for Ferrari, they got very lucky. I wouldn't say very lucky. I think it played in their favor is a better way to phrase that. But we'll get to pit strategies here a little bit later. Lap 19, both Alpines in the top 10. No, that wasn't a typo. Lap 19, both Alpines in the top 10. Gasly, of course, pulling the weight, not doing awful. No pun intended. But Doom was actually doing pretty solidly in the first portion of the race. Not too bad. I think I wrote this again, but yeah, Antonelli with a pass to Verstappen up to P7. That might have been lap 20 or lap 19. And then promptly right afterwards, lap 21 and lap 23, Verstappen says, everything is overheating and I can't even brake anymore. It's just ridiculous. Obviously, he finished the race, so it was fine. Lap 23 as well. Final warnings for Antonelli and Hajar, both are track limits. Somehow, even to the commentators, like, the commentary was suspecting that, like, Antonelli was going over track limits later on in the race, but apparently not. Which again is like very commendable to like the limits that Piastri that Antonelli knows about that car. He is so dangerously precise, and it is kind of terrifying. It's a little bit terrifying. It's very admirable though. It's just very terrifying. Lap 27, Verstappen pits, and by this point, I'm wondering if they fixed the lights, and that's not the least of their issues because the right front changer was not able to get the hard tire off. The wheel gun did not engage for the right front hard tire. Yikes. So just more issues for Verstappen. Next lap, Mercedes boxes Antonelli for keeping in mind he was coming from soft tires, and they put him onto he's coming from medium tires and they put him onto soft tires. Lap 28, they put Kimi Antonelli on soft tires. The race is 56 laps long. We'll come back to that. Carlos Sainz with a very aggressive pass on Yuki Tsunoda. On the outside of turn number 1, Yuki had slid wide just a little bit. Sainz had tried to take to the regular line, so Sainz arcs out wide a little bit, tries to cut back to set up for turn 2, then they make a little bit of contact. My assumption is that there would be a penalty for Sainz. We'll get to that. But there was damage to, I think, Sainz, but also maybe Tsunoda. I genuinely have no idea. But regardless, on lap 32, the battle continues on between Tsunoda and Sainz, although Tsunoda makes very light front wing contact with Sainz into turn 1. He got very lucky. Correction, both drivers got very lucky, because that could have been a damaged front wing for Tsunoda or a puncture for Sainz. Both of them got very lucky. Oh, by the way, safety car and debris at turn 3 on lap 32. Cool. So this is where I have my little graph now. I say my, it's the F1 graph. I just realized that Russell's timing thing is grayed out on here because his transponder had an issue. That's hilarious. But everyone pits, so Piastri boxes, and he goes from mediums to mediums. Russell goes from medium to soft. Norris from medium to medium. Leclerc, Hamilton, both medium to hard. Verstappen, hard to mediums, was a little bit before the safety car, actually. Same goes for Gasly and Ocon. They went from mediums to hards a little bit before the safety car. Pitting at the safety car, Tsunoda and Behrman go from medium to soft and hard to soft, respectively. And then they box Antonelli again to put him on another set of soft tires, a third set of soft tires used in the race for Antonelli. Did they not have a hard tire available or something? Like they I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. The strategy for Russell was soft, medium, soft. I don't know how I feel about that for Antonelli. They should have just had, like, Antonelli could have easily gone a few laps more on that medium. They kind of did his laps a little bit short. I'm double checking right now. They didn't box Russell around the initial time that Antonelli pit before the safety car. So I think it was lap 28 ish. They did not box Russell, but Russell was on the same medium compound as Antonelli. So I don't know what Mercedes was doing there with Antonelli's strategy. But that could have been better, and they kind of screwed him out of points. So could have been worse. Could have been better though. Albon goes from hard to medium, and then Everyone kind of stays on their tires. From Hulkenberg, Hadjar, and Doohan, they were on medium, hard, and hard. Alonso boxes from mediums to hards. Lawson goes from hards to soft. That's a strategy decision. Stroll goes from medium to hard. Bortoleto from hard to medium. And then Sainz from medium to hards. So, replay shows that Lawson was a little bit too aggressive when trying to pass Stroll for, let me check my notes again, P18. I don't know if he got a penalty for that one or not. I think he did. I think it was, oh wait, hold on. I do. I have these set up. Completely forgot about that. Yes, he was too aggressive. It was turn 2. It was a 5-second time penalty for Liam Lawson for making contact with car 18, which is Lance Stroll, into turn number 2. Not a good day for Liam Lawson. For some reason, there's no type of visual showcase of like where the debris was on the track. Like, we know there was a safety car for debris, but no one had a camera shot for it, I guess. It's very strange for the quote-unquote debris safety car, but even a full safety car was kind of weird for what should have been the VSC into a safety car if they needed to, but alright then. We have Leclerc struggling on the restart. It was a very short safety car, luckily. Hamilton follows through to get by Norris for P2. Norris goes around the outside of turn 4, and I think by the time I was writing these notes, he might have gone wide, and the team think the same, so they told him to give back the position to the Ferrari of Hamilton. Sainz locks up into turn 9 and nearly barges Antonelli off the track. And that earns Sainz a beautiful, crisp 10-second time penalty and 2 penalty points for not controlling his car properly. Keep in mind, Sainz is still on track. He did not make contact, and we'll get to that in a second. Russell starts having transponder issues, and the timing tower kind of goes a little bit crazy. This tire sucks. Lewis Hamilton, 2025, on the hard tire. Like 2 laps after restarting, I think. So by this point, the broadcast has removed the timing tower. I'm assuming they're trying to fix somehow the data with Russell's timing data. So it's removed for a little bit. We're kind of a little bit blind for the time being. In the meantime, we have insane battling between Tsunoda, Ocon, Antonelli, and Albon. I think it was for P9, if not P10. On commentary, the following exchange happened, where we had, quote, "Is there anyone who hasn't been battling forwards and backwards?" Bortoleto, replied somebody else, and that was just, oh man, like that was pretty much like right when I know it's a theory or hypothetical question, but like once I heard that question, like, yeah, the Saubers, and then I think it was Coulthard who said Bortoleto. It's like, jeez. It's like, yeah, it's true, but like, come on, he's already, like, stop, he's already dead. He's already suffering. Lap 41 is the point where a wide shot, aiming from turn 1 to the final corner, the standard turn 1 shot, is a wide shot that shows that the track's timing tower system does have Russell properly sitting in P2. At this point, I'm wondering where the timing tower is, because if the track scoring system, the actual like digital tracks pylon, which I think uses the same data or is just separate entirely, if that's fine, it's not showing Russell in P20, where's the timing tower? We'll get back to that. Let's see. I think I did mention, yeah, the plus 5-second penalty for Lawson for the, yeah, okay. But, I even put a note for saying just like, literally the timing tower is broken. The race classification even has Russell scored P2. So it took him a little bit too long to get the like start-finish line gaps reset, I guess, on the timing tower. I don't know why they don't have some sort of a backup for that in the first place. Like, if it's on the race classification screen, or graphic, why do you not have that on the timing tower set? Just don't have it update in real time. Probably easier said than done, but I mean, yeah, you gotta prepare for that. But a replay shows the Lawson pass where I think it's a similar incident to. I think this is starting to get to the point where TV direction was getting a bit confusing here. So I think what I'm referring to with this note is that it's a pass between Lawson and a Sauber. It might have been Hulkenberg. A similar, but it's what I think is a similar incident to his pass in the hairpin in Shanghai on Doohan, which did not get a penalty, and they also did not penalize Sonoda or Sainz for their individual contact between themselves, which arguably, I say arguably, for a reason caused a safety car. It was much worse than just rubber being on the side pod. And something I skipped over, I guess, yeah, whoops, is that they had come across a hole in Sainz's side pod. There's a replay that showed that the commentary thought that was like the cause of the safety car. But if that was the case, Sainz wouldn't have been running past lap, what was it, 32, where that safety car was called. He ran a little bit later on into the race, so definitely not lap 32. He ran a little bit later on, so I don't know what was happening with the production team. But we'll get to that. But, quote, Russell has a timing issue, which is why we're not seeing the times too often, end quote. And then they show the race classification with the gap between Piastri and Russell. By this point, I think they're showing the timing tower, but with no timing gaps for some reason. Lap 48, Piastri's radio is, remember to use your drink. I would if it was working. So, yeah, fair enough. Lap 50, Russell's radio is, there's a chance we, quote, there's a chance we lose the dash, so just keep driving normal if that happens, end quote. And Russell responds with, as long as the steering wheel doesn't fall off. And that is referring to Alonso's steering wheel issues where it popped off way too easily. I think literally down the straightaway in FP1. But luckily they did get that fixed. I put, lap 52, Russell's car is falling apart via software at this point. He's got issues with gears. Leclerc and Norris with a fun battle in turn 3 in the exit. And Leclerc had just managed to keep himself from A, breaking his front wing, and or 2, pit maneuvering Lando Norris on the outside. The outside turn 4, Norris goes around up to P3. Russell is noted for DRS infringement. We'll get to that. Lap 55, Lawson has a plus 10 second penalty for causing a collision, which I didn't know what that was about, but I think in hindsight, I think it's for both contacts. I generally don't remember at this point. I don't know what the collision was for Lawson, because he had 2 incidents in turn 1. Oh, yeah, no, it was this one. I'll get to that in a second. Lap 56, Norris's radio, make sure to use DRS only when we're sure. So what is happening is that because of the transponder and timing issues, basically the McLaren, in this case, or the Ferrari or whoever, anyone behind Russell does not have that proper timing gap that is set to activate or deactivate DRS automatically. I yawned a little bit, sorry, jeez. I'll get to that in a second, but a little bit more touch on the TV direction here. I'll read the results here actually, but first let's go through everything here with all the documents. We have document number 51, where Hulkenberg is disqualified for having a skid plank less than 9mm thickness required. It was 8.4, 8.5, and 8.4. Oh, it's left-hand side and right-hand side. I thought that was like something I thought LHS was like something meaning the front of the car somehow. Wow. But the average wear is basically 8.5 millimeters, less than 9 millimeter minimum thickness. Hulkenberg is disqualified from P13. Everyone is moved up 1 spot. Not that it matters. Lawson has a collective 15-second time penalty. The first one was with Stroll, where he overtook Stroll in turn 1, lost momentum by missing the apex, then having Stroll, having taken the better exit, was in front of the entry to turn 2 and was entitled to racing room at the corner. However, Lawson collided with the rear axle of Stroll, causing a collision and forcing Stroll to compromise the exit of the corner. That one I don't think they showed a replay of. Unless I just missed that. But it doesn't get any better. That was document number 47. This one's document number 49. This is the one that I'm talking about where Lawson just basically like brushes the side pod of Hulkenberg. And that's worthy of a 10-second time penalty. Much like Shanghai last year with Sainz and Alonso's contact, the initial contact where it's just the contact, viewing that in isolation. No, like they don't pay attention to the consequences. You view the contact in isolation. That was also worthy of a 10-second time penalty, apparently, just brushing against another car. At that point, I think I even brought this up in my I'm pretty sure I did. I brought this up in the episode where I talked about Shanghai, where I think it was Lawson and Doohan into the hairpin, and Lawson just kind of bullies Doohan off the track a little bit. And I think some reason the stewards, I think they thought that it was Doohan not at fault, I would per se, but that he could have opened up the corner more. I'm gonna have to look and find this again. If I do car 44, no, he's car number 30. I don't even. Oh wait, no, it's changes made during park run. May final starting grid, provisional race classification, practice start, technical regulation, infringement. Nothing really. I know it was here somewhere. It's not park run. I know it was Shanghai, but I guess because it wasn't noted, it's not here. Unless it was car 7. Ah, this one. Oh, I'm thinking of this in the wrong order. Oops. That's what I'm thinking about. Yeah, okay. It was Doohan who was overtaken by Hadjar on the run up to turn 14. Doohan lost control, locked up, and forced Hadjar off the track. It wasn't that one. There's no way. It might have been that one, to be fair. I could be misremembering. I don't think it was even. No. I think I'm right. It wasn't noted. With Lawson and I think Doohan. I don't know if it was Doohan for sure, but I know it was Lawson. There's some move in turn 14 in Shanghai where that wasn't even investigated, where it's like, really? Not even noted? Come on. So the stewards are kind of being out of order here. Again, or confusing, I should say. It's very confusing. It doesn't really make sense. And then, of course, Sainz with a 10-second time penalty where he locked up to turn 9 or turn 10. He locked up the front wheels, understeered towards Antonelli, missed the apex, and forced Antonelli off track. Antonelli lost 2 positions as a result. And then the very interesting thing here is document number 54, where Russell had used the DRS system when he was more than 1 second from the car ahead. Decision, I'll read this first. No penalty is applied. Reason, the connection between the automated DRS activation system and the car failed due to issues with a timing loop provided by an external party. Therefore, the FIA authorized manual activation of the DRS in accordance with Article 22.1H. I'm not going to go and find that. At the time, the driver was experiencing a brake-by. At the time, there should be commas in this, I swear. Gosh. I don't know why they're so afraid of putting commas in here. It's so confusing. At the time, there should be a comma, the driver was experiencing a brake-by-wire issue and other electronic issues. Russell was at the time advised to use an auxiliary button in the cockpit, which serves as a backup radio button, but also serves as a manual DRS activation button. Why, Mercedes, would you... Why? I'm pretty sure they're going to change their steering wheel after that. I wouldn't be surprised. But in no way, shape, or form should a radio and DRS button... Should in no way, shape, or form should any button with DRS be combined with any other button. That's like combining the DRS button with the pit limiter button. Correction. It's like combining the manual override DRS button with the pit limiter button. You just can't do that. It is bad. Stop that. On the straight between turns 10 and turn 11, which is DRS zone number 2, Russell tried to radio the team using this button, but instead accidentally activated the DRS. The DRS was activated for a distance of 37 meters on a straight of approximately 700 meters, whilst he gained 0.02 seconds. Yes, 2/100ths of a second. He gave up 0.28 seconds, or 3/10ths of a second, at the next corner to compensate. This was confirmed by telemetry. Accordingly, whilst technically a breach occurred, the stewards decide that as there was no sporting advantage gained, no penalty is imposed. So, I'm glad they were smart with that decision, at least. So, after all is said and done for all of that, including penalties and or disqualifications, sorry, Nico, the final finishing order is Piastri, Russell, Norris, Leclerc, Hamilton, the top 5. Verstappen 6th, 7th Gasly, 8th Ocon, 9th Tsunoda, 10th is Behrman, 11th Antonelli, 12th Albon, 13th Hadjar, 14th is Doohan, 15th Alonso, 16th Lawson, 17th Stroll, 18th Bortoleto. Sainz, non-classified, technically finishes 19th, and disqualified is Nico Hülkenberg. And throughout all of that, that finally leads us to the standings, which I can't find all of a sudden. It's over here. So the driver standings is Lando Norris first with 77 points. 74 points is Oscar Piastri in second. Verstappen has 69 points in third. Russell has 63 points in fourth. And then a jarring little bit of a look here. We have Charles Leclerc, fifth place in the points with 32 points. Antonelli in sixth with 30 points. Hamilton in seventh with 25 points. 8 points, or sorry, 8th place is Albon with 18 points. Ocon 9th with 14 points. 10th place, somehow, Stroll with 10 points. Pierre Gasly finally gets Alpine's first points of the season. He gets 6 points, which is tied with Hülkenberg and Behrman for technically 12th and 13th. And then there's Tsunoda with 5 points. He finally got more points. He's gotten 2 more points, I think, this season. 2 points, 2 more points this season. So that puts him up to 5. We have Hadjar in 15th with 4 points. Carlos Sainz with 1 point. In 16th, Alonso, Lawson, Doohan, and Bortoleto have yet to score points. However, all the teams have scored points. So from 1st to 10th, we have McLaren with 151 points. Mercedes, second place with 93 points. 71 points in third is Red Bull. 57 points in fourth is Ferrari. And then we have that jarring gap again, where it's 5th place with Haas at 20 points. 6th place, Williams with 19 points. Aston Martin 7th with 10 points. 8th is Racing Bulls with 7 points. Alpine and Sauber tied with 6 points in 9th and 10th. So we continue the streak where since 2022... double checking now on the F1 website, where all teams will finish with either 1 or more points in the point standings, and that is going to be the case. The last time, of course, was 2021, where a team didn't score points, and that was Haas with 0. Well, that was fun. Somehow I got all that done within an hour. Wow. Awesome. Okay. Well, next week is Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, and I don't know when I'm going to be doing that podcast recording, because I don't know what I'm doing next week. Next week. It's this weekend. It's literally this weekend. And for some reason, I still think it's Saturday. But otherwise, that was all for this. I'm not sure if there's anything else that I've missed. Nope, nothing now. Okay. Well, in the meantime, that's going to be all from me. I'm going to have this be under an hour, thank goodness. That's going to do it for me. Be on the lookout for more gaming stuff eventually. Fridays at the moment are F1 Manager videos, so I will edit and upload Japan's eventually. And that's all I got for now. So maybe more low-field motorsport with Automobilista 2. I've been wanting to do that, and I just have not gotten around to it because I just haven't. So that's just me. But hopefully soon I'll get around to it. So we'll see how things go in the meantime. Otherwise, hopefully you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next episode. Okay, bye.